Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of Big Girl Adventure Life. Today is our first interview of our show, which is super exciting because I have a great guest. And we've followed each other on Facebook here for just a little bit. And what really stuck out about her, and caught my eye was her superwoman pond skim. And we'll get into that, and I'm sure I'll show you pictures. But when I saw that, I'm like, yes, I'm getting her. So this is the wonderful Nikki Klein. And
Hi.
she is a backpacker and a professional snowboard instructor at Mammoth and so many other things, and a mom, which a lot of us can relate with that. So yeah, let's just jump in, Nikki. Hi, and thank you so much for being here with all of us. And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Hey, Marlena. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this cool thing that you've got going on. Yeah, so I have been an instructor at Mammoth for 7 years, but a professional instructor for 10. And I love teaching here. I especially love teaching women who aren't 100% sure that it's even for them, or maybe they got scared the last time they went and maybe want to quit. I'm the person that can help them get through that fear, that next big hurdle. That's my favorite kind of student to teach. So I really love teaching snowboarding. I've been a rider for 20 years, and if I'm not in the snow, I'm in the mountains in some other capacity as often as I possibly can be. Enough to annoy my husband.
Yes, our adventures without them, it really does just nag a little bit.
Yeah, he's so tolerant, though. I'm so grateful. But
I was
yeah,
wondering how you were able to escape so much. I'm like, oh, she's going again.
I joke around and say I'm kind of like a retired stay-home mom. So my kids are in their early 20s, but they both still live at home, but they don't need very much momming from me. And I was fortunate enough to stay home with them, and snowboard instruction has really just been a hobby. It has supported my passion. It's supported my habit all these years. So I get passes for my family and passes for me, and it really just makes it more of an excuse to be here as much as possible.
Have you always been this adventurous?
I think I have. And today is Father's Day, so I've kind of been reflecting on that. My dad didn't have any boys, and I'm the oldest. And he really just, at 13, I was backpacking, and I was in Girl Scouts much, much younger than that, doing all kinds of cool hiking and horseback riding. And I grew up on the Olympic Peninsula and was just outside in the rain and mud all of the time, picking mushrooms and hiking and walking up river valleys. And I really was fortunate to be made to play outside most of my childhood. And once my kids were old enough to drag around, I did the same thing with them. And they're tired now, so they're just like working and going to school, but they have their own adventures, and occasionally I can talk them into coming with me, but I really just can't get enough.
Nice. So if you had to talk about your adventurosity, that's what I call it.
Ah.
What makes it that you are so curious about being adventurous, and what stirs that in you? Do you know?
Uh, for me, I feel like I did watch some of the things that I do now from the sidelines for a little while, including the pond skim, which is one of my favorite things to participate in now. And I have watched some of the things that I love to do, and thought, I'd really like to be able to do that, but I'm not 100% sure that I can. And or maybe I'll be judged, or maybe, I don't look the same as everybody who's doing it. And the tide of that really is turning, but it took a long time, and there have been a lot of places where I showed up and I was the only person that didn't look like everybody else there. And I just wish I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self that nobody is paying attention to you, and just like go do all of the things anyway. Just go do it, and it will bring you joy, and you'll liberate other people just by doing it. So it's breezy and wonderful today, so sorry about that.
No
But
worries. Where
but
are you right now?
So I'm just outside of the mountain, Mammoth Mountain, and these are the minarets and Mount Ritter and Banner. And just on the other side of these mountains over here is Yosemite. And tomorrow I'm backpacking from here over into Yosemite for a few days. So just
You
getting
know
a
what?
view.
Let me put you on full screen camera, and why don't you give us a slow little 360 so that we can check out your surroundings?
Sure.
I
Let me
can do
move.
this. Technology.
Technology. Awesome. So that's the San Joaquin River Valley behind me there. And the really spiky ones are the minarets. And then we have Mount Ritter and Mount Banner. And as we go around, you can see Donahue Pass in the distance. And that's the Pacific Crest Trail and John Muir Trail, how they enter Yosemite. And then we have some really cool trees up here, just out here on the granite, decomposed granite. And behind me there is Mammoth Mountain and what little white she is still wearing. And then we come back down around and you can see the remnants of a big forest fire, the Rainbow Fire that happened about 20 years ago. So that's where I'm hanging out today.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
So now we know why you're all windblown, and we're all jealous that you're out and about. Uh, I'm at home, but I escaped just a couple minutes for Father's Day, so I can't complain,
Oh, that's
right?
great. Yeah. Excellent.
um, okay, so you've hiked the John Muir Trail. You have gone snowboarding in so many different places. Can you tell us about your favorite adventure?
Um, I would have to say that the John Muir Trail was my favorite adventure, and not just the 230 miles of it that I hiked last year, but the fact that it really took me 4 years to get it done. So I count the JMT as being a 4 year adventure. I dreamt about it for a few years even before that, and it took me several attempts to do it. One of the tries, I just hadn't prepared physically enough, and there was some bad weather that crushed my morale, and I just wanted to teleport myself out of there. So after about 100 miles, I bailed. And one of the years, my dad, I have an inReach, a satellite messenger, so I can get messages on the trail, which is nice if I'm going to be gone for a long time. And one of the years that I was out, I had gone the same 100 miles, and I received word that my dad had had a heart attack. So I had to exit
Oh
that
my
year too.
gosh.
And so it just has been a lot of years of trying to do the thing. And so last year I made a plan to just go completely by myself. I had involved friends in the previous years, and this year I just wanted it to be all on me, so that if I didn't succeed with the plan, it would be all on me. And if I did, it would be all on me. And I would be free to go at my own schedule and own pace, because I'm not a fast hiker. I just get it done. So I like sometimes to be alone, because then I don't feel like I'm holding anybody back. I don't feel like anybody's waiting for me, or they'd rather be going quicker. And then I just don't have any of that negative self-talk inside my head. Solo hiking really is a preference, and some people will never be interested in doing that, but I really love it. And so I would say that the John Muir Trail definitely was my best and most favorite adventure. And I was kind of sad when it was over, because I'm not sure how I'm going to top it. So I hiked all the way from Yosemite Valley to Mount Whitney, and it took me 21 days, and I met amazing people along the way, and everybody helped and supported each other in any way that anybody needed. And you go along with the same people that are going your pace, and the connections you form with people in the wilderness are so fast and effortless and true. So I wish it was that easy to make friends in the front country, because a person that you meet on the trail, the first time you meet them, you say hi, and the second time you meet them, you get their name, and the third time you meet them, you guys are family. And I have a lot of connections of people that I've met on the trail that we're still really close, and we maybe hike sometimes, and we keep in touch all the time. And that's really dear to me, is those connections that you make out even when you're alone. So
Oh, no wonder that's your favorite adventure. Well, I have to say, after hearing that story, I also wanted to point out, just following you on social media, one of the things that I really appreciate about you is that when that you listen to your body. So even if you have this big adventure planned or a big hike, if your body's not feeling it or you're not in the right frame of mind, I've seen you post that you've decided to stay back and clear your head, even though there's this amazing adventure on the other side, you know that you're not supposed to go.
right. Yeah, and I had that experience a couple of weeks ago. I hiked in Yosemite, and I did about 30 miles that was ending with Half Dome, and we got a permit to summit Half Dome. And I got there, and I just looked at the cables and decided it wasn't my day. And I have been hiking strong, and I feel very strong, and I just looked at them, and it didn't look even like a thing I wanted to do. And I've done it a few times before, and I'll do it again. But I think it's really important in the wilderness, especially, and in the rest of your life, to just trust that intuition. If you get to a place, even if you worked hard to get there and something doesn't feel right, I don't want to know why it didn't feel right. I'm fine never having that answer as long as I'm free to walk away. So I don't know why it wasn't right that day, and it was kind of strange, but I had such peace over making that decision that I know that it was the right thing to do. And I hope that anybody who gets kind of, there's the intuition voice that feels like butterflies, and then nervousness feels similar. So you have to like listen hard to discern the difference between a little bit of anxiety that you maybe can push yourself through, or just genuine, like, is this my gut telling me something? And
Mm-hmm.
we don't always get the answer, but I think if you just learn to trust yourself, it becomes, when you make that decision, the peace that you feel in making the decision is kind of my cue to know that that was the right choice.
Yes. And some of the imposter syndrome can run in um, that same realm. So
Yes,
you've really got to make sure that you're not just psyching yourself out.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knowing your gut, and that only comes with experience.
Absolutely. And I have that a lot. I have that in almost everything that I do, even though, in the deepest parts of me, I know that I'm very capable and skilled in the things that I do. There's always that annoying voice inside my head. And I actually just completed the 3-day yoga festival here at Mammoth this year, and there was so much great self-talk and listening to your voice. And the imposter syndrome is a liar. We do know the things that we know, and we can do the things that we want to do. And if that is the voice telling you not to go, then you just tell that voice to just shut up. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You can
Hmm.
definitely do the things. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
so, big gals out there, you heard it from an experienced person. You're not alone. So, if you're just beginning this journey, don't stop. And those voices in your head are normal. We just need to rise above them. And that's what this show is all about. It's about inspiring plus size confidence. And we're doing it through adventure, because when you're out and adventuring, and it doesn't have to be backpacking or rock climbing or any of those things, an adventure is an adventure, something new, something that just makes you feel alive. That's an adventure. And you just need to talk yourself into those things and not out of them.
You're never sure
Um,
that you can do something until it's done.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you get halfway through it, if you learned something from the process or you had fun, hey, you do not have to get to the top, or um,
No.
it's just the journey.
Yeah, yeah. Every step. And I've been backpacking for almost 30 years of my life. I still have nerves before I step out on the trail every time, because you are subconsciously working out the what ifs of anything that you're trying that's new or scary. And that is just a part of the planning process. So when you feel those butterflies, just honor them and look into the thing that might be giving you some stress and anxiety, and think it through and see what it is, and then let it go, and know that you know the answer to those questions when they come, and you will know what to do. And we every time we go and nothing terrible happens, we get stronger and braver. So you just have to go that one time, and the amount of bravery that you get from trying something new will float you into the next time. So just the one time is really hard, but just try it. Just try it.
Okay, I don't like to focus on negative things, but if we're really going to help these big gals learn to deal with things, we need to know, as a plus size gal, what kind of things have you ran into, or what struggles have you had that have really maybe shaped the way that you adventure?
Honestly, I think one of the biggest things that I've had a hard time with is finding gear and clothing, and that the tide is turning on that as well. And a lot of the companies are coming around with really great equipment for larger people. I've worn, in my 20 years as a snowboarder, only just this last year have I worn anything made for a woman. I've worn men's gear for all of these years, and I've been thinking about how, because I've been heavy for more than 20 years, since my children were born, and I am about 270, and I fluctuate 20 pounds up or down, and I'm strong, and I'm kind of fortunate because everything is proportionate, so I feel very steady in my balance, and I'm really fortunate in that. But it's still, I don't know what it's like to walk into a store and buy the thing that's cute. I tend to walk into a store and I look for the sizes on everything, and if there's something I think might fit, I try that, and it doesn't matter what color it is. That's why now all of my gear is purple, because over all of the years I've been doing all of the things, every time I find a purple thing, I grab it. And so everything's finally purple. But I would say gear is probably the hardest thing. And honestly, humans have been really supportive of me. I did have, when I did the pond scam the first time, I I crashed because, of course, but I participated with my friend, and I did the scam, and another friend of mine videotaped it. And when I watched the video, he sent it to me, and I heard somebody in the background yell the word Shamu when I fell. And I just had like so much fun and was so like overjoyed with what I had just done, because I mean, it was a performance, it was a show, and it was in front of 5,000 people. It was incredible. And listening to that guy say that was just like so disheartening, and it echoed what I hear in my own mind out of my own voice. That's why it hurts, is because not because I care what that guy says, because I don't care, but because it echoes the negative self-talk that I occasionally have in my own head. So,
Mm-hmm.
but screw that guy. And I went back the next year and did it again. And I'm kind of like, people expect to see me there now. So, and I stand
Yeah.
out. I mean, and so that's one of the great things about this body, is I'm hard to miss, and people know who I am. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
great. Yeah, it's kind of great.
Yeah, you're a force. And forces, that confidence just attracts other plus size confidence, and that's why it's so important that we do it.
Yes, 100%. Every person that sees you out doing the thing is braver. So when you're going and doing the scary thing, the people that you encounter, the people that you tell, they get a little bit more brave just by knowing that somebody else did it. And I really love that. And so I kind of feel like, I do these things for me, of course. It's for my heart and my soul that needs to be in the mountains. But I hope that, and I mean, I have a YouTube channel that I post videos on, and I don't care about it, but I just hope that somebody else sees that and knows that it's possible. Knows that it's possible to do the pond skim, and knows that it's possible to come learn how to snowboard, and knows that it's possible to hike the freaking John Muir Trail. I mean, any of these things are accessible to you if you just have the desire to do it.
Absolutely. And we will be connecting everybody to Nikki's socials and her YouTube channel so that you can keep following on her adventures. That's what we're here for, to make those
Yay!
connections. And if you're not following some plus size influencers, then do it. If you're just following the smaller influencers, not that I don't want you to do that, but of course you're going to get, in your own head. You can adventure at whatever size you are.
Yes.
Which brings me to another topic that I saw that you ride horses.
I do occasionally. Yeah, my best friend that I go on adventures with has a pair of horses, and about once a year we take them into the Sierra and we go out for a week. And usually one of the horses he rides one of the horses, and the other one packs all of the gear. But sometimes we both ride and we just go out for day hikes from somewhere in the backcountry. But I do like to ride horses. It's always really scary, but I'm always really happy I did it. And taking horses into the wilderness is not easier than going on your own. It's much, much, much harder. And
It's another
horses,
mouth to feed.
yeah, they're mouths to feed, and they're a horse is a cross between a 5-year-old and a dog. So they're really emotional and stubborn, and if they're not going to do a thing, they're not going to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes it really challenging. But I've had a lot of fun on those trips, and with just like anytime you go into the wilderness, if something happens, if you have a train wreck out there, you just have to persist. You have to clean up and pick up. And, we've had incidents. My friend was injured on one of the trips, and we were still 8 miles in. And, he was in shock the rest of the way out, but we got out, because you have to persist. Whatever happens, you have to keep going. And I really love that about backpacking.
So one of the things that started me on this journey was 15 years ago. I know this just happened to a TikTok star. I don't remember her name, but she was turned away from like a resort because she was too heavy to ride the horse.
Oh,
or to ride the horses.
yeah.
And that actually happened to me 15 years ago. I won this prestigious activity at a five-star resort and took my friend. Thankfully, I called ahead, and they were like, "Oh, what's your height and weight so we can match you to your perfect horse?" And I'm like, "I gotta give you my weight." So when I gave them, they're like, "I'm sorry, we don't have any horses for you." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "I can pull myself up on a horse." And they're like, "That's not it. A horse can only carry this much." So finally, after lots of back and forth, they were like, "We'll find a horse for you."
Yeah.
And we show up, and everybody has these tiny little horses, and I have a huge Clydesdale. Like,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
he was he was huge. And so I'm like, how am I going to get on this horse? Like, I can pull myself on a regular horse, but this guy's tall. So they pull a staircase out for every like. No one has to pull themselves up on a horse, and I'm like, hmm. So I love horseback riding too. I haven't got to do it in quite a while.
Yeah.
And I've never got to do it in the mountains. So I really wanted to hear about your experience of that.
I do love trail riding, and it is a little bit extra scary. And they but once they relax and once you relax, they know they can see the trail just like you, and they know where you're going. And going back towards where you came from is always easier because they're like, "Woohoo, we're going back to the barn." But that's a shame. That's really a shame that that happened to you. And horses, they do have limitations. And I mean, I'm almost 300 pounds, but it's a little bit like when you pack your own backpack to go hiking. It's a percentage of their body weight. So you just have to find a place that has a horse that can carry you. And a lot of the horses they use for trail riding at the pack stations are older, really mellow horses. So that's kind of an influencing factor too. And it feels really discriminatory, and I'm not keen on that at all. But it is also like the same as you carrying the weight. So if you want to try that, I would definitely recommend that you call ahead and have them do what you did and like hunt it down, be like, "Hey, no, this we need to make this happen." And they can do that. So you
So
can do
here's
that.
another adventure pro tip, and I will get into more of these as we go along. But I always call ahead for adventures. And I don't want to deter you from any adventure, but I do want you to be prepared. So different places have different weight restrictions or don't have the equipment that you need. And especially if you're going with a group, you do not want that embarrassment.
Right. Right.
So call ahead no matter what activity you're doing, even if you know that you're amazing at it and you can do it at your size, that doesn't mean that that activity place
Right.
is ready for you. They're not ready for
Yes.
your awesomeness.
Yeah. And that needs to change across the board. And I really believe that visibility is key there, because if they've only had one person ever ask for that, they're not gonna stock that. But if there are people showing up, if that's a demand, it's capitalistic society, they will make that available if people want that. So you just have to be heard.
It's the
So
same thing with
yeah.
gear. I mean, that's why
Yep.
we're finally being heard because we are making it happen. So
Yes.
make those calls, and the more we get out there, the better. Okay, so
Absolutely.
just a couple more questions, and then I will let you go.
Okay.
So, what do you do really well? Like, I want you to brag. I want you to brag on you so big. What is it that you do really well when you're out adventuring?
Um, I plan just the right amount. I plan everything just the right amount. I don't overplan because if you plan too much, then when the plan gets messed up, which it always does, then you are stressed out because you work too hard on it. But I plan the exact right amount, and I have plan B, C, D, and E, and then I will also take the next best thing. So if something gets messed up and another opportunity presents, I'm like out the door towards that other thing. So I can change directions really quickly and go with the flow. If something that I've planned has if there's a weather issue or if a friend couldn't join me and it's a two-person thing, I can pivot really easily. And I feel like that's probably the thing that makes my adventures. I don't have very many bad adventures because they don't go as planned, but I always plan them and I can just pivot and whatever has happened. I mean, just even for this interview, I went up to the lake to try to do it from there and I couldn't get any service. So I had to like zoom over here. So I just pivot, find the next best thing. So
Go with the
there's,
flow.
there's a lot of great things. Just find the next best thing.
Perfect. Yeah, and I can definitely see that about you. Same with when we talked earlier about you saying that you attract and encourage others, and you seem to always be in that space where when you're needed, of somebody needing you or needing that energy. I could definitely see that happening and being one of your superpowers of adventuring.
Yeah, I have a one of my dreams that I have yet to fulfill is I have a dream to become wilderness first aid certified and then also perhaps volunteer for a search and rescue crew. I don't actually live in the Sierra, but that's where my hiking heart is. I don't hike in Southern California much where I live because I grew up where there was water, so the places in the desert are not as appealing to me. But I would like, I do end up in the path of people who need help a lot, and I kind of feel like that's my flow in life. And when I was younger, I had to work for a few years when we changed states, and the job that I got was a 911 dispatcher. And so
Wow.
I was a police dispatcher for a couple of years, and I really loved that job. But when I moved to California, I didn't want to do it here in Los Angeles because it's too heavy. It's too much for somebody who's so empathic. I wouldn't be able to like cleanse that out of me enough to be okay. But I do like being on the other end of the help. And I have had an opportunity to do that on trails many times. I'd like to get some certifications behind me for that as well.
Always learning, always learning. Okay, Nikki. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure we're going to be seeing you on more Big Girl Adventure Life adventures. In fact, when you get up here to Lake Tahoe, I
Yes.
want a person to person adventure. Whether we hike, whether we bike, whether we go paddleboarding, or all of the above. I mean, I'll take days off so that we can go play.
Oh, love that. I'll bring my paddleboard for sure. I want to go up there in that beautiful cove by Incline. I still haven't been out on the water in Tahoe, so I need to do
there's
that.
there's so many coves. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll put your
no,
planning to well my planning to work.
that's amazing. I'd love that.
Okay, everyone. So I will be sharing her socials with all of you. So be sure to go follow her. I wanted to give since this is one of our first interviews, I wanted to give a hint of a new thing that we're going to be rolling out for Big Girl Adventure Life. It's actually going to be a challenge. And it's kind of be like a bingo thing to give away prizes and whatnot. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, we will see you on our next adventure. Thank you so much.